pushes way up the racetrack, and now here comes Janzik. Janzik goes by Query, and he goes by Inman. Burnell gets a great run, another 3 wide for the race lead. It's going to drag race off of turn 4. Shepard is there, but it's Larry White at the line. Still going to be Pat Ward, and they make contact. Britton has broken the race car. AJ Slideways. Alan Johnson wins.
Whether you hug the infield tires or rip the cushion, you found the fastest dirt track podcast in motorsports. Welcome to Where Legends Are Made, the official podcast of Land of Legends Raceway. Here's Stephen and Brad Ovens.
Hey fans, welcome into another episode of Where Legends Are Made, the official podcast of Land of Legends Raceway. Your announcer Steve Ovens here with you and bringing you another driver interview, a little content to chew on before we get the 2024 season kicked off. And we're going to chat with defending Hobby Stock track champion, Mr. Smooth, Marc Minutolo. And Mark, I'm going to start there. Where did Mr. Smooth come from?
Actually, Bob Thomas, my first year racing, he just kind of threw it out there on the fly, and we just kind of ran with it, I guess you could say.
Nice. You talk about Bob quite a bit. Bob's been a big part of your racing career right from the start.
Yeah, he's definitely been one of the day one guys that's been there. He was there for my dad towards the end of when he was racing full time. And then he just transferred right over to me, and he's been in my corner ever since.
Talking about being in your corner, you know, your dad, Big Mike's been, you know, a huge part of your racing career. Before I ask, you know, your start, like how did Big Mike get into racing? What gave him the racing bug?
Well, actually, I don't know if you remember, or I'm not sure if you were around. You were around Canandaigua a long time ago. Like when Mike Button was racing there.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, Gary Farnsworth, do you remember that name ring a bell?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So Gary Farnsworth, my dad actually sponsored him. My dad did demolition derbies for a long time. And then he used to help out Gary with the modified. And then he decided to get a car himself and then raced a couple years, mainly at Weed Sport because it was like the enduro class. But he did some stuff at Land of Legends as well. And then a lot at Fulton too. And then he ended up getting that Camaro that from 98 to, oh gosh, I think 04-ish. Like, and then he brought it out. Then I brought it out in 07. He won a lot of races in Canandaigua with that. And then I started racing in 07 when they brought the pure stocks back, and I raced it for like 7 more years. I got my first win with it, got my championship with it. He got his first one with the same car, so pretty cool history there.
Absolutely. I mean, the fender classes have had a storied history at Canandaigua, you know, even back to I'm thinking back to stories that I remember Stu telling me back in the 70s. You know, and they had 3 different, you know, same cars, but 3 different divisions, and you know, pulling 100 cars a night just in the fender classes and all that stuff. But I feel like right now the fender classes really have a really good footing. You guys put on really, really great races, and everybody knows I'm a fender class fan, but I don't just say that. You guys really do put on great shows. You know, what's your thought on you know, where the classes are right now and kind of, you know, your thoughts going into this year?
I mean, I feel like we've definitely picked up the car count in the hobby stock class. The street stock class has kind of plateaued a little bit, but we still get a full field or a fairly full field, you know, not 24, but considering what we've been down to where we are now, I feel like we've made strides in car counts for sure. The hobby stock class, I think, is a good thing, you know, as long as not too much gets changed and, you know, minor tweaks are okay, but, you know, just not getting too out of hand and keeping it the way it is. You know, it gives the old street stock metric chassis a place to go, you know what I mean? Because now everybody's switching to the hybrid chassis in the street stock class. So with the hobby stock class being there, it gives them a place to go for, you can pick up a car for a decent price, like a good one car. So a lot cheaper than you can dive into that street stock class. When I was talking to Kenny Sharp a month or so ago, or a couple months ago, that there's no real entry level into racing. Like it doesn't matter if you're doing four cylinders now or hobby stock, whatever. There's no cheap entry into racing, but more affordable. Definitely, the hobby stock is more affordable than a street stock. I can speak firsthand on that. I'm just super uh, fortunate to have a lot of good people helping me financially to do it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm right with you. I think back, I mean, I'm gonna go, let's say 20 years ago, maybe 22 years ago, and Dad and I bought a championship winning four-cylinder car and went racing for about 3 grand. And we had what we needed to be competitive and win. And if I wanted to do that same thing in a four-cylinder now, I'm talking rear wheel drive Mustang. I mean, some guys are putting 10 grand just in a motor, not race ready car ready to go. So I hear you, man. It's an entry level, but I think the hobby stocks where they're at right now is really is in a good place. You mentioned things kind of, staying the same, not changing too much. For the fans that are gearheads out there, what are some of those things that you see as an important thing that we need to, keep those consistent and not change a whole lot with? What's an example or two of something that falls in that category for you?
Well, the street tire is the equalizer. That's where I'm gonna hit hard on is that street tire because they say, oh, well, Cooper Cobras are, 140 a piece or 130 a piece. Well, yeah, if you want a Cooper Cobra, but you have plenty of other options that for around $100 a tire, 110 a tire. And the thing with the tires, the street tires, is they'll last you all season. I run if I could, if I didn't make contact with people or just blow tires, because crap does happen. But if I didn't blow one tire, I could run the same tires for 2 seasons. And if a hobby stock guy is telling you different, I feel like they're lying. You know what I mean? Unless you're roaching that thing and spinning your tires and ruining the tire, well, I mean, you can run on the same tires for a good year. And like you should be able to afford 8 tires and essentially if you don't blow one could last you 2 years, like race tires on the wrong track or an abrasive track or we're on a traveling series now, you don't know what you're going to get. You could burn that tire off in one night. Well, that tire is $160 or $170
Yeah.
for one night,
Yeah.
easily one season at max. I feel on a race tire, which I'm not slandering the race tire. I'm just saying as far as keeping it limits you from putting a hog motor in and broaching your on a street tire. You can't hook it up like with a race tire, so that it doesn't matter how much motor you have or what you think you have. In that street tire, it's the equalizer. So as far as hobby stocks, just the tire thing's the biggest thing. There is other things too, but I feel like that's the easy one that you can spot the difference. You know what I mean? And then just n- keeping it so you can't adjust trailing arms and stuff like that. Like everything's pretty stationary for the most part. Where in the street stock class, you can adjust so much.
Yeah. Let me ask one more question about the tires too. For hobby stocks, and you're running on DOT. I mean, you're running on DOT tires. You're running on things that people are running up and down the road in their daily drivers. Is there anything that you guys do with hobby stock tires in terms of, are you guys prepping tires and doing things like other divisions, really are required to do, or what's that look like for hobby stocks?
Well, I dunk mine in fish oil for about 6 months before I run them, so then it softens. I'm just kidding.
Love it.
I don't. I throw a quick swipe. I have my way of swiping them, and then I just put a grind on them. Try to touch them up before every race. I just put a grind on them. Might throw a traction grab on it, something like that, just to try to get a nice abrasive surface and then try to promote as much traction as possible. The swipes are to let the heat out, but I feel like it's not a terrible thing to do to a street tire, although it might take a little more to heat them up. But I don't know. I don't really do a whole lot besides the common grind and a little bit of swiping.
Okay. Very cool. Um,
There is probably more I could do. I just don't know. Like I know what's worked for me, so I kind of just stick to that, you know.
well, hey, I mean, let's call a spade a spade. You're out there winning races, so obviously what you're doing is working, you know?
Yeah, definitely had a lot of success this past season. It was a fun year for sure.
Yeah. Let's talk about this past season, and this was a question that somebody didn't put on the Facebook post, but they sent me a private message and they said, "Hey, I don't want to comment this, but you got to ask Mark." And I agree. I, we've got to settle this debate once and for all. Is there or is there not a rivalry with Bub Burnell?
There is. I feel like it's more become more of like a kind of I don't know how else to say it, but like a fun type of friend type rivalry, you know, like I consider him a friend, but I know where I stand with him on the racetrack, you know.
Okay.
So yes, there's a rivalry. There'll always be a rivalry, but the way I see it is that on Saturday night, everybody's my rival, whether I like you or not. You know what I mean? So it kind of is what it is. You know, I like you as a person, but I want to beat you on the track. So there's always going to be some form of rivalry, no matter what, with any competitor. But me and him definitely seem to go back and forth and bust each other's butts and stuff like that, and talk crap and this and that. But there's definitely a rivalry. I feel like it's good for the sport. It's good for the class.
Oh, I love it's entertaining, but I'll when I read that question, I said, you know, they're absolutely right because even as the announcer and you know the guy that's pouring through video, you know, all season long, I, I look and I'm like, you know, I feel like I feel like these guys know that they are here putting on a show for fans and they're making it entertaining. But there are some nights when I say, boy, I really think there is a heated rivalry here, even if they're, you know, kind to each other about it in interviews. But then there's other times I'm like, wow, like they're not mincing words here. Or, you know, we saw a clip from after the heat races last year that guys are jawing across the driveway at one another, and it's like, you know, I appreciate you putting that out there and kind of, you know, settling the debate because I've wondered myself. I'm like, man, I wonder where these guys stand on it. And so we've got Mark's side of it here.
Yeah, you know, the thing is that my dad always says to is, you know, take him for face value, you know, like yes, he, you know, he wants to be friends with you, which I'm not like I said, I'm not talking crap about him, but he wants to be friends with you, but at face value on the track, he wants to win. And so do I. So it's not like I'm knocking him for it, but
Yeah,
you don't expect it, you expect him to run you hard, and I'm gonna run him hard, you know. Definitely the way I feel is there's certainly rivalry because there's some things that some guys do that'll piss you off that one other guy might do and it not piss you off as much. So I guess, you know, when something questionable happens between me and him, yeah, I get a little more fired up, or there's a little more fire there, or, you know. But the difference is now is I feel like we talk about it rather than holding it in, you know. Like
yeah.
if we're not happy with each other, we discuss it, whatever. Whether we're yelling at each other, throwing the bird, whatever, we figure it out.
No, absolutely. And you know, whether guys in the class realize this or not, we're seeing it every week on Facebook, we're seeing it on Twitter. Fans are talking about our hobby stock class, like either the race that got put on or, you know, something entertaining that happened or something that somebody said or whatever. Um, you know, and you know, Land of Legends TV has been a great addition that gets our fans involved and they're invested now. You know, like there are people who are tuning in and saying, "Man, I can't wait to see if Mr. Smooth gets the job done this week or not." And you know, these are not people that live in your backyard or my backyard. We've got people watching from all over the country that are tuned in and they've never met Marc Minutolo in their life, but they're tuning in, they're cheering for him, and or when he wins, they want to hear what he's got to say. So it's really been a lot of fun with your guys' division, these last couple years. The shows have been great. And two, like you mentioned, the class is growing. It's still growing, and the competition level I want to get your perspective. I feel like the competition level has gotten a lot stronger. You've got guys like Tyler Burnell, Danny Carrick, Justin Eldridge, who's won a championship himself. There's new names that, may not necessarily be Canandaigua royalty that are making a name for themselves now.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like the like I said, the to reiterate on the growth of the classes is there's new blood and there's old blood, It's like that's how I feel, there's not really, as far as competition wise, there's not really an entry level either, because at every level there's guys that have been doing it for a long time, just we're racing within our means,
Yeah,
which we talk about racing being expensive, but everything's expensive now. Like, going out to eat, the cost of living, all that, race fuel, all that. So it's just it's good to see that there's guys that just dig deep and still do it, and still want to come out and still want to put a car together. And to the guys that might not run as fast or run towards the front, just keep digging. I feel like all you're going to keep doing is learning,
yeah,
and then what else are you going to do on a Saturday night?
yeah.
So,
Well,
but yeah, as far as the competition, I mean, it's definitely, as far as new blood, Danny Carrick, Brighton Grant's made strides, and really, I consider Justin new blood still too. He's right in that mix of, or he's right in the middle of being new blood and one of the old dogs. You know what I mean? So he's been doing it about a half as long, I feel, and but he's always been involved in some sort of motorsport. But the hobby stock wise, like, I feel like he's still got a lot of potential. He's just got to find it. He's got to dig deep and come back with this new car, and hopefully win a couple races. And if he wins the championship, cool. I don't that'd be cool for him to come back and do it again. But Tyler Burnell, I consider him kind of new blood too. He's been on racing forever, but he's still fairly fresh. Danny
yeah,
Carrick, can't forget Danny Carrick. He was a force all year once he figured the car out. He's definitely one of those guys. Is you're either gonna have to catch him or you're gonna have to beat him. He's gonna make you earn it the whole time.
yeah.
Then and then the old dogs, like Bob Burnell, Blaine Smith, those guys have been doing it. Those are guys that race against my dad, so it's funny racing with him. But I'm going on 17 years, so I'm going to consider myself an old young dog too.
I was just gonna ask you, where do you fall in that? Because you're not an old guy by any means, but you have been around for a while.
Yeah, I'm the guy that's going to be a thorn in the young guy's side for a while.
Yeah. Speaking of, having been around in the sport for a while, you've hit some pretty big milestones here recently, and I'm just, everybody can look at the app and see, your total numbers across your career, but I mean, man, when you got started in this stuff, did you think that, any of these milestones were, even on the radar?
I guess getting into it, you never really know for sure, but I was lucky to get in my dad's car that um it had success before, and we kind of knew the car, and I obsessively watched videos, of racing when I was younger. So I'm not gonna say it told me exactly where to put the car, but it definitely helped, knowing certain things and talking to him, paying attention when I was crewing for him, and just tentatively watching the race, and I feel like helped a lot. But as far as seeing the future, getting into it and thinking, okay, I'm going to go out, I'm going to win 100 features, I'm going to win 5 championships here and stuff like that. No, I definitely would have never envisioned that, because when the pure stock class came back, we started off strong, and then uh, Scott Freeman did a good job of trying to kill the class, just kind of nitpicking stupid stuff, and slowly we started weeding out cars, and we dropped down, and then we kind of made a comeback, and then when Paul took over, he did the every other week thing, and it kind of got a lot of guys' interest, guys that had been out of it for a while and got back in it and started having fun again. And I mean, last year our average had to be kind of close to the street stock numbers too. So I mean, but anyway, I know I'm going off track here, but yeah, the milestones definitely mean a ton to me, and I feel like having the right people around you is how you get to those milestones for sure.
you're enjoying those milestones, but I, I I I don't even really know how to word this, but you are just somebody around the track that, you know, I feel like every day we see you at the racetrack is your best day ever, you know? Like it's evident how much fun you have with this stuff, how much you enjoy it with the people that are around you and the race team right now. Um, but and I don't know if you can answer this, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Like where does all the positivity come from? Like where because you are probably one of the most positive people I think I've ever met. Between seeing you at the track having a good time and your post race reports, I mean that has become like appointment social media content on Sunday mornings and Saturday mornings from your races at Outlaw. I mean, I'm just curious, where does that come from? Or it just, it just come out one day and people liked it and you kept going with it? Like where did it all come from?
It's a way to spew out what I got to say without the filter and just kind of say F it and just write it. And I just do it because I'm just having fun and in the moment. I do a lot of my thinking on the toilet after the races, so I got a lot of time to think. So
Uh
yeah, the positivity side of it, I mean, there's a lot. I, I feel like I watched my dad kind of carry a lot of weight on his shoulders, and just kind of when it was race day, like you could never tell, or no matter what. I mean, he'd go out and fold somebody up, or he'd get folded up in the mix, and and he'd still be smiling when he got out of the car. And Jamie Eldridge used to always say, "I don't know how the f he does that, but he always got out smiling." And it's like I'm tense, and I do carry a lot, like mentally, but
yeah.
when I'm at the track, it's fun. You know what I mean? It's like I'm getting to see all my cousins and family and shit on one day of the week. So, like that's at the races. You see a bunch of people you don't get to see all week, or you're ragging on this guy this week, and then you finally get to see him Saturday. I don't know, just the whole family race family camaraderie is like is a thing. It's a real thing for me. So, it's just kind of natural habitat for me. So I'm loose, I'm fun. I have a good time, and sometimes I get a little fiery, and then I calm down and I apologize to everybody for acting like a complete jackass. And for the most part, they forgive me.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm with you on that. I'm with you on that for sure. What is every racer has these things. What are some things? Do you have anything on race day or as you're getting ready like that you have to do the same thing every time or some people call them superstitions, but I don't sometimes drivers have those things that they're not really superstitious, but I got to do this the same way or I have a process that I have to follow and it just puts me in that right mindset.
I guess for me, it would be kind of like a time thing. Like I think I've lost a lot of my superstitions, but like a time thing, like getting to the track at this time or leaving home at this time because sometimes you stop at the gas station, sometimes you don't. So it's not a matter of arriving, but like just leaving at 3:30 on Saturday, or leaving right around 4:30, 5 o'clock, making sure of that on a Friday. You know what I mean? Getting down to the pit spot. It's nice now because we paid for a spot down at Dundee, but so we got a spot no matter what. But just getting in a certain spot. That's another thing too. I guess I could say is a superstition. I don't know if it's a superstition or just something that like means more than people would think is like my pit spot, getting in my spot where I'm comfortable and I know where I got to be. Like I can move a couple cars down or this or that, depending on if the ground's wet and stuff like that. But in the same general premise, I said like that's where I want to be. If I'm because it's like a routine thing. So I guess the routine thing could kind of be a little superstitious, but I used to be all about like same underwear, same shoes. My helmet's got to be like this. I got to prep the tire like that, or but over the course of a long time, you realize like, oh, I forgot to do that, but we still won or we still ran good. It's like, I guess it doesn't really matter.
Hey, when you win enough, there is no superstitions anymore, right?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. You lose them after a little while, but they're always there. I can't say that. Like even even on my gloves. My gloves are new this year to me. it was just a matter like those are my gloves I wore every race, so I couldn't find them at Dundee the last weekend, and I didn't think it mattered that much. But man, I was losing my wig. I'm like, man, what the hell am I freaking out about? Because you put them in a certain spot, and it's like, oh, I know they're right here, and no, they weren't there.
Yeah. You've accomplished a lot in the sport in your divisions. Is there anything, I mean, you've had a lot of success, a lot of wins, 5 championships. Is there a particular race that you haven't won yet, or is there something that you still say, man, I want to accomplish that. We haven't got there yet. Is there anything on that list for you?
In the least cocky way I can say this, not really. We've won the Top Gun race was that was it. You know,
Yeah.
because we've already won. Like I said, I'm not trying to sound too arrogant here, but we've won every big race we can at Dundee. We've won Lucas Oil, we've won Fall Nationals, we've won Dutch Hope, we've won just about everything you can win. The Cal Lane Memorial, Mike Jackson Night. We've won a lot of races. On big nights there. So
Yeah.
for me, last year was the Top Gun race because then that's why I kind of poured my heart into that. And that was explosive as far as financially this year. I mean, a bunch of good people chipped in. And we made that race huge. Then we
Yeah.
pulled 30 cars. You know what I mean? I don't even think anybody knew there was 30 hobby stocks in the Northeast.
I
You know,
didn't.
and then we all come together, and we were still missing guys. That's the best part is we were still missing guys. Like we were right on the edge of having to race your way into that race, and that doesn't happen often.
No.
So that was awesome, man.
Yeah. I want to ask you on the street stock side. I I know that that division's gone through a lot of it's evolved. It's really gone through a lot of transition, and I just we saw the emotion in Victory Lane. We saw it, on TV and such, but I I I just can't imagine what that feeling had to have been like getting back to Victory Lane, knowing how tough that class is, how much has changed in that class, and how hard it is not only to be competitive, but to keep up with the price of everything in that class. I'm curious, it's not quite been a full year, but it's been a while. I mean, what can you put into words in that street stock win last year?
Man, that was a lot of hard work. Getting that thing together, and my dad put in a ton of time just making sure everything was right. The chassis upgrade was enough to where we're like, okay, well maybe we'll consistently be in the top five. And then we went down to Dundee and tried it out because it was just we were antsy to try it. So I just kind of puttered, I guess you could say, but I was like, man, we're right in pace with a couple of the faster guys like Gene Sharpstein and Dave Yell had been running decent down there. So I'm like, all right, well we're on pace, not really knowing much because it's all different to me. It's a whole different ball game than the metric cars. So even though I ran street stock, it's still a different ball game, because then you go to the Camaro Clip car and it's a totally different animal. And then we went to Canandaigua and it was like I was pretty far off in the heat race. I made a mistake and pretty far off opening night, and then it was like, okay, well now we start 13th, so let's just pray to God we go forward at least. and then we did and got to like fifth. The first night I was like, all right, well the next time out, I think we started sixth and made kind of a wild move there in the opening laps and got to the lead and just tried. I knew that I seen CJ initially, because CJ came right up through with me, and I know he was showing a lot of speed too. So I'm like, well, I got to run. I got to try to just get away, and I almost looped it a couple times, and then 4 or 5 to go. Then I see Jimmy peek down low. I'm like, oh, here we go, because he's definitely forced to be reckoned with all year, but. I just tried to keep my cool, and then when I actually won that thing, I'm like, "Oh my God, you got to be kidding me!" And then when I watched the video, or well, this is probably one of my best racing moments in my quote unquote career is when I came down to victory lane. The excitement, I was excited. Don't get me wrong. I was like, I beside myself excited. It's been a long time since I had been that excited. I mean, I've been really excited over some big wins, but that was like, holy shit, we finally won in this class, you know?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so when I come to pit lane though, and I seen the excitement on everybody's face, and then when I seen how excited my dad was, I'm like, F yeah, you know what I mean? It was so great. It was so gratifying because just the time that we put in putting it together and just being really tedious, you know, just whatever, like however long it took, we weren't bringing it out till it was right, and then to come out and then win with the second time out at Land. It was the third time out total, but second time at Land of Legends, and I was like, holy shit, we got something, you know. And then we had good runs from then on out, but yeah, as far as that win though, that was like, man, I don't know. When I didn't even realize it'd been 4 years till I'd watched the video and you had announced it. It's like, wow, that made it an even bigger feat. It was definitely sentimentally one of my favorite wins. You know, the excitement on everybody, and then the whole thing, just the people. You know, people always kind of throw you the thumbs up coming through the pits, but it was like I feel like I was walking out of a tunnel for a UFC fight. You know, everybody standing along the pit line, you know, just high fiving and stuff like that. And then the crowd, man, the crowd too was going crazy too. So it was cool just to have everybody's emotion into it. You know what I mean? It was a wild thing. It was awesome.
Yeah. No, that was a great race. That was a great night. The victory, yeah, you're set it spot on, man. Like everything about that win was a lot of fun, whether you are a Marc Minutolo fan or not. I mean, just being a race fan, how could you not, appreciate moments like that? So, that's good stuff. What
The
we,
best
yeah, go
best part about best part about that night is I'm thinking like I know we're fast, but I'm just gonna go out and see what the car does because I almost didn't have a little faith in myself like or something. I'm like, well, hopefully get in the top three kind of thing. And then I didn't grind any tires, and Brian's like, well, they just do the right rear. You know, he kind of yells at me a little bit. So we take it off quick, grind the right rear, put it on like just in time to make up the line. We start rolling out, and then lo and behold, that's the night we win. So that was pretty funny. He's like, I told you, grind that tire, you know.
yeah.
So it was funny. Like I said, the emotion from everybody in the surrounding pits and then throughout the pit area. That was like, and then the joy of seeing the joy on my dad's face. That was pretty awesome. You know.
What's this year look like? Outlaw, Land of Legends, double duty, not no double duty. What do we look like this year?
I kind of was gonna scale back a little on the street stock stuff, but I'm sure we'll end up just doing what we've always done: the double duty at Canandaigua, or Land of Legends, and hobby stock, and whatever special shows. We'll try to hit some special shows at Dundee too. So a little double duty at both, but definitely hobby stock at Outlaw, and then a little bit of double duty at Land of Legends again. And then I'm gonna try to follow the Empire Street Stock series as much as I can. A couple of them are little tough to make, but we'll follow as much as we can. Stay
I
busy.
I bet you got Weedsport circled, huh?
Oh yeah, weed sports a given. I don't care if I got to run a scooter around there. I'm racing that race.
I know this is the Land of Legends podcast, but man, I wanna give a plug for that show. If you are looking for a show, that man, I've got to put this on my list this year, and you're traveling around chasing races as a fan. Put that show at Weedsport when the Empire Street Stocks are going to be there. Uh, there's been a lot of people that have either said publicly or amongst racing circles that, man, I wish the street stocks could get a show at Weedsport. The full fenders haven't been there and I don't know how long, but man, we'd love to see what the show the street stocks could put on at Weedsport as we know it now. And man, put that show on your list. That's going to be a hell of a night there at the port. So
Yeah, I'm
um
wicked excited for that one.
yeah, yeah, and I know a lot you talked about, having to race your way into shows. I think that's going to be one. I think
I,
that's going to be one that there's going to be some disappointed guys after the consi on that night.
I definitely think the same. That's something that I feel like we've all been waiting for.
And it's also, even if you ran there back in the day, 'cause, man, I wish the street stocks could get a show at Weedsport. I think that's going to be one that there's going to be some disappointed guys after the consi on that night. So, and it's also, even if you ran there back in the day, 'cause, man, I wish the street stocks could get a show at Weedsport. I think that's going to be one that there's going to be some disappointed guys after the consi on that night. The cars have changed, things have evolved. Nobody's got a good notebook there.
No, I mean, like some of us have raced there a little bit, but I think I've only ran there about 5 times. So I mean, as long as the configurations, I know it's a little different, but hoping to have a little edge on them,
Those those hot laps are going to be interesting on that night, I think.
Yeah, I think you guys are going to find out that you got to drive that track a lot different than you think.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Hey, did we miss anything? I know we kind of ventured all over the place and but a great talk here. I do want to give you an opportunity to mention, the folks that are coming back on the cars this year and give you an opportunity to plug them too.
Yeah. Let's see here. Let me get to my list because I believe, or I'm gonna end up missing somebody. Well, so I'm gonna try to go down the list here. I want to definitely Doug Doolin. He's been through a lot this last year, and hopping back on the car again this year. That's like immensely appreciated, and it's always nice to a lot of these people. I consider friends as well, and that's a little relieving. You don't carry the pressure of. I feel like it's easier to perform when you're not worried about performing, I guess you could say. So with these guys, they just want me to go out and do my thing, and they know, that they're what they're doing with their support and support me in all my decisions on the track. So definitely Doug Doolin, uh my dad, of course, Big Mike's Auto Repair and Sales, Jen, definitely got to thank Real Estate by Jen too, and her for her support, morally as well as a sponsor too. So it's good to have a girl that you're not worried about getting your ass peeled for being in the shop because she understands that
Yeah,
you
she's
got to
been
be in the
around
shop.
racing a while. She gets it.
Yeah, so definitely Tradition Automotive Group. They've been on for a long time. Got to thank them guys again. Mark Spore with Rushco and MCS Farms and Feeds. Gavenda Engines, Rod Comfort, Carter Bradley, Givos Rears and Gears, Bob and Bonnie Thomas, Butch's Body Shop, Blades Contracting, Lanes Yamaha, NG Promotions, Sunset Bowl and Pamela Curia, Emma Jackson Gibbs. Uh, Jimmy's been helping me out too, JD Marine, Eldridge and Sons, Joe Wilcox Performance, and Mike Castro and Speedway Performance. A lot of these guys, it's a big group effort, for the Pavoskis actually too. That's like a household name around uh, Dundee. They're helping out this year too. I think I got Lane's Yamaha on there. It's cool that I ventured out to Dundee, and a lot of those guys that you've seen their name around a lot want to help you out, and you start meeting these guys, and it's a pretty cool deal to have all these people that are. It's like a friendship. It's a sponsorship as well, but more of a friendship, and that means more to me than a lot of things. So
Yeah. Well, you bring up the that's a name I know well. I actually
yeah,
raced for them back in the day.
yeah. I remember
So
you telling me that.
yeah, I tell you quick before we get out of here, quick Pavosky story. So that was by far my best season racing of my short racing career. Um, but funny story, and I'm sure it's probably not as funny to Joe, but we had a back then it was quite common at Outlaw that an adult would run a four-cylinder car out there in the four-cylinder division, and then a youngster would race it in the bandits. I don't see that crossover quite as much anymore, but back then a lot of people did it. And uh back then too, in that bandit class, good grief, we had a full field of cars back then. I mean 20, 22. I think the biggest car count we ever had was a field of 24 at one point. And we ran really well in that car. And I say it now at Canandaigua, guys that got to start out back in the handicap starting at Walmart. Well, shit, I started from the bank every Friday night in that class. We ran really well, and one night bent the car up and didn't realize how bad we bent the car up. And Joe Joe busted tail to get that car back together to come back the following Friday. And don't I go out and run right in the back of somebody? Not on purpose, but boy, don't, he just gets that car fixed up, and don't I go run right in the back of somebody and brought it back to him. And I think at that point Joe had probably had enough of some youngster tearing up his race car. But really, really cool people. It was funny you mentioned that, because the Pavoskis are great, great people. They've had a long history in racing too. So
Yeah,
pretty cool. Yep. Um,
yeah,
hey man, I appreciate this very much. I know there's a lot of Marc Minutolo fans out there, and even if you're not, hope everybody enjoys the content. We're trying to throw out a few podcasts here and there to kind of give everybody a little something to chew on before the season starts. This week we're recording this on Sunday, and after this weekend of weather, it makes you think that racing's further away than we hope, but we'll see. We'll see it how all happens. But man, I appreciate the time. Appreciate your presence at the track and everything you do to keep things entertaining. And we haven't really talked a lot since the banquet, but really really appreciate your speech at the banquet too with the employee award. That really meant a lot, and we haven't had a whole lot of time to talk about that since then. So I appreciate your efforts on that too. You got me pretty good there.
yeah, man. I was looking forward to that for like a month and a half.
No, that's good stuff, man. Appreciate what you do, and keep doing it. And really, you've talked about a lot of young people that are coming up in the sport, and even young fans in those grandstands, man. Really, really good mentor, and somebody that people can look up to. So appreciate what you do, and keep doing it, man.
I appreciate you. Thank you for having me.
All right. There's Mr. Smooth, Marc Minutolo, getting ready for another big year at the Land of Legends, coming off a championship, a very entertaining championship, I might add, and I got a feeling it's going to be just as entertaining, if not more, this year. The way the competition's been, and what do you say, Mark? We'll get over to Justin's shop. We'll get a rabbit's foot put in the car, and he's going to be right up there battling for wins too.
Yeah, I'd like to see him turn around this year.
Yeah. All right. Folks, that's our episode for I say for this week, but we're trying to throw out a few a week here before we get into the season. Stay tuned. We got a lot more interviews coming up. We got more drivers that we're going to feature. We've done an interview that'll come out next week with Chris Marquardt that filled in as our executive producer last season on Land of Legends TV. Got a lot more coming, and I'm going to throw out a little tidbit here. We've got a pretty cool production on Land of Legends TV that's getting set. We haven't announced a date yet, but it's coming. The crash highlights from 2023 is coming. So if you're listening this long into the podcast, you're getting a little breaking news here. We've got the crash highlight reel coming out. It'll be a live event on Land of Legends TV. We haven't announced a date yet, but stay tuned for that. It's on the way. So you're listening here to Where Legends Are Made. Appreciate you tuning in, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Land of Legends Raceway fans, tune in each and every week of the racing season to Where Legends Are Made, a podcast dedicated to covering the drama, excitement, and hear from the drivers from your favorite dirt track. Stephen Ovens and Brad Ovens walk you through the week that was Where Legends Are Made. Subscribe on Apple or Google Podcasts.